Hello beauties, DL here with Intimate Sanctuary. Such a pleasure to design and spend precious time with you again. If this is our first encounter, I greet you with love. Welcome. So I have to say how excited I am to break open the String and Space notebook and start creating. Oh my god! She's so beautiful! Oh, you guys, I absolutely love when I get to start a new bullet journal. It is such a joy for me, for real. So I feel this cover page sets the tone with a year in pixels tracker. How this works is that you choose your mood you're going to track for the year and assign a color to each one. And every day, you mark off which mood best describes that day. After a year, you have a graph in pixels. Usually, this looks like a rectangular graph, but I wanted to do something a little more creative, so I decided to take the numbers of the year and number the block spaces within each number with the days of the Zodiac calendar. So this is my unique way of tracking a year in pixels. I'm using this extra piece of the cover page as a grid ruler cheat sheet, which I will explain more in detail throughout the video. This year, I'm only tracking emotions that uplift me, so I've chosen energetic, creative, joyful, productive, contemplative, and spiritual/magical. So here we go, the grid ruler. What I'm doing here is numbering how many block spaces are on each page, vertically and horizontally, so I have a spacing grid cheat sheet. This helps me measure and avoid counting spaces every time I design. I'll go over the measurements at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. I decided to keep going with the cheat sheet idea and use the back page of the cover to keep track of my favorite weekly spreads. A spread is when you use 2 pages for one concept. And I have found that keeping up with weekly spread designs I like really help in the long run. I decided to use a ruler for this one part in the middle because it was not actually on the lining of the dots. So it was actually in the middle, so I wanted to use a ruler just to keep everything as straight as possible, because the first one I did not have that, but usually I like to hand draw all my lines, but feel free to do whatever flows best for you, whether you want to use a ruler or you want to hand draw them. Either way is just fine. I'm using the back cover as my core values page. My values I hold most dear will be displayed alongside my year in pixels. The left side of the page I'm reserving for my weekly spreadsheet just in case I need a little bit more space for detail or design more ideas that come to mind. So here we go, the future log. This year, I really want to focus on using the bullet journal method system, so I'm keeping track of the method's foundational templates, also known as collections. They are the daily log, monthly log, future log, and the motherboard, the index. The future log keeps track of future dates. At the end of each day and the beginning of each month, you go through the activities on your daily log/monthly log, to see which events, dates, and tasks need to be scheduled for the future, and it's documented on the future log. This setup is very different because we're going by the Zodiac calendar versus month to month, so instead of starting on the 1st, our month generally falls on the 20th/21st. These months also blend together, so this page is crucial to keep on top of. My number one goal this year is tracking self-care. I was fortunate to be introduced to Valerie Tejeda's audiobooks, Self-Care by the Signs and Self-Care by the Moon, and thought how stellar, no pun intended, it would be for us to use her books as a reference guide to structure our Zodiac bullet journal. On the future log, I'll keep track of not only dates, but the 4 main moon phases: the new moon, first quarter, full moon, and third quarter. I had a really fun time designing this spread because it really gives a different feel to how the year will go. Instead of looking at it month to month, it's looking at it in terms of how these beautiful signs can guide you, not rule your life, but guide your life. So I'm very excited to see how this unfolds.
Some of the old songs. For old time's sake.
Now, just because the focus and the months are a little different does not mean that the holidays and birthdays change. So I put those on the right side of each zodiac sign so I can keep date of all of the holidays and birthdays and anniversaries of beloved moments and loved ones.
Been a long time.
This next spread is a more in-depth breakdown of the moon phases and zodiac signs as it relates to self-care. Over the year, I will refer back to this page and implement highlights that really stood out for each element. Feel free to include this for yourself in your bullet journal, but don't feel like it has to be a necessity for you to include in order to follow along.
Been a long.
I hope you are getting some major creative value and love out of this. If you are, go on and bang that like and subscribe button so I can continue to bring you creative value and love month to month. As you know, I am a huge movie buff, and I've recently delved back into my guilty pleasure of Vampire Diaries. Don't judge. So I thought it would be befitting to use the series that centers around the moon as my inspiration for this 2023 bullet journal Zodiac Calendar setup. This is one of my favorite quotes from the Vampire Diaries. Actually, not from one of my favorite characters, but still, nonetheless, it is a very fantastic quote. It's from one of the originals, Rebecca Michelson, who says,
Fine, okay. The first rule of truly living. Do the thing you're most afraid of.
Vampire Diaries, just gotta love it. So I wanted to remind myself that this year is about living life to the fullest. And the best way to always start that off is doing one thing, even if it's very small or simple, that frightens you. Because conquering the fear, you will discover faith within yourself.
Some of the old songs.
And one of the things that actually scares me is coloring my design without really knowing how it's going to come out. I have to honestly do the whole thing somewhere else and then know how it's going to come out and, do it from there. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put this quote into action right now with something very small but very poignant for me. And I'm just going to film myself. Oh, God. I'm going to film myself
Been a long time.
doing this, and I'm just gonna let it happen, and I'm just going to see what unfolds. So as small as it may seem, it was kind of a really big thing for me, and I was really proud of myself for conquering even just the smallest and simplest fear. So kudos to that situation.
Been a long time. Some of the old songs. For old time's sake.
So I am taking the inspiration from A Year in Pixels and using the rectangle graph to track a year of raw vegan living. The big fear, I will say, and it is very much in alignment with Vampire Diaries and one of my favorite characters, Stefan Salvatore, who battled with overconsumption. And one thing I truly appreciated about the character of Stefan Salvatore is that he learned how to regulate with his incredible village of supernatural beings to process his emotions through journaling and doing what he needed to do for self-care by regulating and tracking his consumption. His journey I could really relate to, so I wanted to face a big fear and confront my issue with overconsumption of food. We all suffer from some sort of addiction, whether currently or in our past, and the only way to overcome it is to first admit it and then to take action steps that allow for grace, self-care, and the conviction to know that you are worth a life that is full of joy, love, and fulfillment, so that you are able to release anything and everything that no longer serves. We got a little heavy there, but I believe that along with bullet journaling giving a beautiful creative outlet, I also believe that it gives a wonderful foundation for facing things that we like to lie to ourselves about. So this is me punching fear in the face, leading the way for myself, and if there is anything that I can do to help serve or guide you on your journey of self-fulfillment and well-being, may I be as great of a service to you as humanly possible. So let's do this together. So here I go again. I am designing on the fly. Now I do have my templates that I've drawn out, but as far as how it's going to be colored and oh my gosh, what colors I'm going to use, and oh gosh, you guys, I mean, really, this is like a little anxiety. Like, I do not like to do these types of things without knowing exactly how they're going to come out. I'm definitely overcoming a need to control. So this is very much a creative, fun, yet scary way of me being able to do one thing, no matter how simple or small it is, that frightens me. So on this page, I am vowing to myself and to my HP, which is my higher power, to live the dream every day, no matter what I face, no matter what I'm overcoming. The goal is to live the very best life possible, and that is the dream. So go out there and do something that frightens you, whether great or small. Do it to find that self-confidence within you. And if it is a big one, then give yourself as much grace as the goal is big, and know that you are worthy of the very best life you can ever live. So lastly, I'm doing the grid ruler measurements. So what I'm doing here is filling out how I like to put together my monthly spreads, because that's something that I constantly count every month. So I wanted to go on and put that out as far as the spacing. And I am doing the half, the thirds, and the fourths in the measurements, both vertically and horizontally for each page. If you want a more in-depth breakdown of how grids go, let me know in the comments below. I would love to do that for our community if that's something that we need to have. So just let me know and we'll go from there. So I like to make boxes, so I've made the measurement set up for my titles and my boxes for each month. All right, you guys, so that is the setup for our 2023 bullet journal setup. These are my core values. I went a little crazy with the colors, and that's okay because, a part of me was like, maybe you should do that over again. But I was like, no, I'm going to enjoy the craziness of designing on the fly. So this is the full setup of our future log. Our astrological and lunar chart. I'm also working with different whiteouts, so I did the actual slider as well as the pen. I think I'm going to actually stick with the pen because the pen is so much better. The middle part of this, I'm still working out. I kind of want to do a compass with a moon and sun, but we'll see what unfolds. So the quote, first rule of truly living, do the thing you're most afraid of. My raw vegan mood tracker, and last but not least of the quotes, I vow to live the dream with you every day. A big thing that I'm about is understanding that as much as I try to control, I don't know. So one of my theme quotes for this year is, I don't know, show me the way. So the border of the I vow to live the dream with you every day is, I don't know, HP, aka my higher power, show me the way. Because in the end, we're all learning one thing, and that is said so profoundly by my favorite and very underrated character of Vampire Diaries, Lexi, who says,
Let go.
And I leave you with that, my beauties. Thank you so much for staying with me throughout the entire video. It is always a true labor of love to give these videos to you guys, so thank you so much for staying with me throughout the entire journey. I wish you all the love and joy in the world, and remember, no matter what you're facing, learn to let go and move on. Peace and love.